Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going on a fascinating journey back in time to uncover the story behind something we use almost every day, but rarely think about: paper money. How did we go from trading shells and heavy coins to lightweight, foldable notes? The answer lies in ancient China, a story of innovation, economics, and a revolutionary idea that would reshape the world. So, let's set the scene. Imagine you're a merchant during the Tang Dynasty around the 7th century. Business is booming along the Silk Road. You're trading silks, teas, and spices, and your wealth is growing. But there's a problem, a very heavy problem. The currency of the time was metal coins, usually copper, strung together through a hole in the center. A large transaction might require thousands of these strings of cash, weighing a ton literally. Carrying that much metal was not only exhausting, but also incredibly dangerous. Robbers were a constant threat on the long and lonely trade routes. The merchants needed a better way, a lighter, more secure way to do business. This is where the genius of the Tang Dynasty merchants comes into play. They came up with a brilliant solution. Instead of hauling massive loads of coins, they started depositing their metal money with trusted agents or guilds in the capital city. In return, they received a piece of paper, a note, promising that they could redeem the full value of their coins at a later time. This was a deposit receipt, but it was more than just a piece of paper. It was a promise. It was trust, formalized. These early notes were called fakian, which translates to flying money. It was a poetic name for a system that made wealth feel as light as a feather, able to fly across vast distances. At first, this was an informal arrangement between private merchants. They created their own systems, their own designs, and it worked because it was built on reputation. If you were a trusted agent, your notes were as good as gold, or in this case, copper. This system was so convenient that these notes began to be traded directly between merchants without ever being redeemed for the actual coins. Why go through the hassle of converting it back to heavy metal when the next person you retrading with will accept the paper? This was the moment paper started acting like money itself. It had become a medium of exchange, not just a receipt. The government, always observant, saw what was happening. They noticed how efficient flying money was and recognized its potential. By the time of the Song dynasty, around the 11th century, the government decided to step in and formalize the system. In the region of Sichuan, a hub of commerce and printing, the first officially sanctioned paper money in world history was created. It was called jiaozi. The Song government granted a monopoly to a few trusted deposit shops in Sichuan to issue these jiaozi notes. These weren't just simple receipts anymore. They were printed on special paper, often from the bark of the mulberry tree, and featured intricate designs, pictures of houses, trees, and people. They also included official red seals and warning notices against counterfeiting. In fact, the penalty for creating fake jawazi was severe death. This was serious business. The government understood that for paper money to work, people had to trust it completely. Each note had a specific expiration date, usually 3 years, after which it had to be exchanged for a new one. This was a way to control the supply and prevent old worn-out notes from circulating indefinitely. The Jiaozi system was a massive success. It supercharged the Song dynasty's economy, which was already one of the most advanced in the world. Trade flourished like never before. The government could fund huge public works projects, support its massive armies, and manage its vast empire far more effectively. For a while, it seemed like the perfect system. However, this new financial tool came with a new and unforeseen danger: inflation. Governments, then as now, are often tempted to solve their financial problems by simply printing more money. The Song dynasty facing immense military pressure from northern invaders, began to issue more and more paper notes without having enough metal coins in reserve to back them up. They were essentially printing wealth out of thin air. As the supply of paper money flooded the market, its value plummeted. People lost confidence in the notes, and prices for goods skyrocketed. This was one of history's first recorded instances of hyperinflation driven by paper currency. The gawazi, once a symbol of convenience and prosperity, became nearly worthless. It was a harsh lesson in monetary policy. Despite these early struggles, the idea of paper money was too powerful to disappear. When the Mongols, led by Kublai Khan, established the Yuan dynasty in the 13th century, they took the concept and scaled it up dramatically. Unlike the Song, who tried to back their currency with reserves, the Yuan dynasty made their paper money, called Chao, the sole legal tender. You couldn't use gold, silver, or copper coins. You had to use the government's paper notes. This was a true fiat currency, its value based entirely on government decree. A famous visitor to Yuan China, the Venetian merchant Marco Polo, was absolutely stunned by what he saw. He wrote about it in detail in his book, The Travels of Marco Polo. To him, it was like a form of alchemy. He described how the Great Khan could create money from the bark of a tree and make it accepted as payment throughout his vast empire. He explained the intricate process of production, the use of official seals, and the severe punishments for counterfeiting. His accounts were met with disbelief back in Europe. The idea that a piece of paper could be worth as much as a gold coin seemed absurd, like a magic trick. Europeans were still centuries away from widely adopting paper money themselves. The Yuan dynasty's system also eventually fell victim to the temptation of the printing press. Overissuance led to massive inflation, which contributed to economic instability and ultimately played a role in the dynasty's downfall. The succeeding Ming dynasty initially tried to use paper money, but, having witnessed the chaos of inflation, grew distrustful of it and largely reverted to a system based on silver. It seemed for a time that China's grand experiment with paper money was over. However, the seed had been planted. The accounts of Marco Polo and other travelers had spread the idea of paper money to the West. While Europe was slow to adopt it, the concept lingered. It wasn't until the 17th century that the first banknotes began to appear in Europe, starting in Sweden. Goldsmiths began issuing promissory notes for gold deposited in their vaults, functioning much like the early flying money of Tang Dynasty China. From there, the idea spread to England and the rest of the world. Banks and governments began issuing their own standardized banknotes, building the foundations of the modern financial systems we know today. So, when you look at the bills in your wallet or the balance in your digital bank account, remember its long and fascinating history. It's a story that began over 1,000 years ago, with merchants in Tang Dynasty China looking for a lighter way to carry their wealth. From flying money to the Jawazi, from the awe of Marco Polo to the birth of modern banking, the invention of paper money is a testament to human ingenuity. It demonstrates our constant search for better, more efficient ways to interact and trade with one another. It's a story of trust, innovation, and the powerful world-changing potential of a simple piece of paper. China didn't just invent paper, gunpowder, and the compass. It also gave the world an economic tool that would fuel global commerce and shape the destiny of nations. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Let me know in the comments what other historical inventions you'd like to explore. Until next time, stay curious.